Thanks for joining us here at Good Teams Win Great Teams Cover. We're glad to bring you our NFL Wildcard Weekend picks and preview show. The regular season's done, 272 games, been and gone. It's win or go home at this point. No more tomorrows. This is it. The playoffs begin now, and we've got 6 fantastic games that we're going to preview. We're going to get into the depths of the matchups and share our best bets. We're going to do a it's not slightly different, a new 4-fold challenge for the playoffs. The slates are wiped clean here. Good Teams Win Great Teams Cover head office for the playoffs. And we've got a fantastic guest joining us, a gentleman called Andy Burrows. He is a Washington Commanders fan. Is part of a Washington Commanders UK podcast, the Bunker podcast. So we're very much looking forward to speaking to Andy later on, who will help us preview the Commanders against Buccaneers. But gentlemen, Byron, Joe, we're here. The postseason. How are we doing? How are we all prepared? It's no longer Super Wildcard Weekend. The NFL have quietly dropped that. But How are you feeling heading into Wildcard Weekend?
Yeah, I can't wait for Super Wildcard Weekend. I think it's going to be a good one. I'm not rejecting the branding. I'm sticking with it. And yeah, I thought we might get some Jim Mora impressions the way you were starting out there. Playoffs? You want to talk about playoffs? That's my attempt, if anyone would like to go ahead. But yeah, I love, the regular season's great, yada, yada, yada. But like, the next few weeks are just peak, proper great NFL football. I've got 6 games this week, all so important. All good teams this year as well, I think there's maybe one kind of dud team in there, but we'll get to who that might be, in my opinion, as we go. But I think for the vast majority of these teams are all good teams. So, normally I feel like there's a couple where you're like, this team's not going to win a game. You can pick it pretty easily. But yeah, all these teams I think are pretty strong. Again, there's one I think might be a bit duddy, but that's not too bad. And they are a division winner, so they can't be too bad.
Can't even know. Fair enough. Joe, how are you feeling? You've been working away feverishly for the last couple of hours to get everything ready. You've really outdone yourself for the graphics, for the good team, for Good Teams and Great Teams cover for the playoffs. Gone the extra mile. How are you feeling heading into the postseason?
Well, it's the playoffs. If you don't make an effort in the playoffs, when will you make an effort? It's the creme de la creme. It's it's a fun wildcard weekend. I think both number 7s are not like has-beens or just snuck in. You're like, oh, they're in. They're actually exciting teams that you could argue that there's a team who finished 8th who could have been better than some of the other teams, but they didn't make the playoffs. So I think every team made it, and there's all interesting matchups. I was worried that if the Steelers had played the Texans, for example, I was like, oh, that's a game I'll probably skip. But now how it's all fallen into place. It's like every game, there's lots of interesting stories to talk about, and there should be fun games, even if there's some high scoring ones or some low scoring where defense are dominating. So it should be fun all around.
Excellent. Good stuff. Well, there's a little bit of news for us to cover before we get into the game. So we did our Week 18 review, and we thought we'd probably covered all the coaches that had been fired, and then the Raiders fired their coach on Tuesday after we recorded. So Antonio Pierce was fired, and General Manager Tom Telesco also removed from his position. I thought, I don't know if I feel a bit bad for Antonio Pierce. He didn't have a great situation. Who do you choose between Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell? It just felt they were always going to struggle because they just didn't have that, that quarterback. Do you think it's the right call from the Raiders?
Is it okay to say I think it's the right call, but I feel sorry for him?
Yeah, that's okay.
I don't think he is a top level coach, so I think you should always be, unless you have one, you should be looking to improve that. But I think he was dealt a shitty stick as well. Not even the not having a quarterback. Max Crosby missed time through injury. Christian Wilkins, a huge free agent addition, missed a lot of time through injury. And when you want your team to be built on defense and you don't have your best 2 defensive players for a lot of it, it's really, really tough. I think for the talent they had, I don't think a 4-win season is really crazy. I think I predicted them to go 4-13, in fact. And they also lost Devontae Adams midway through the season.
Yeah.
I think the development of Brock Bowers, the development, I know he's an older player, but like the utilization maybe of like a unheralded wide receiver like Jacoby Myers, I think is a positive. But I think overall, I don't think Antonio Pierce is taking you to the promised land. So I kind of understand wanting to make a change. I just feel sorry for him because he didn't really get much chance to show that he can be more than what he was.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like they're just in limbo again, aren't they, in terms of they really do. I don't think they're going to be able to move forward at all until they sort out that quarterback position. And
especially in that division.
Yeah.
You're against Sean Payton and Peyton Nix. Peyton Nix? Who's Peyton Nix? Bo Nix. You're up against Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And you're going to battle with Antonio Pierce and AOC.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, I think, like you said, Broncos got Bo Nix and he's worked out well, and they've been able to compete. Mm-hmm. I think I always find it harsh, especially when they get rid of first-year head coaches when they haven't got a quarterback, to then be like, what are you going to do? I've mentioned in the last podcast, I always find I never agree with sacking first-year coaches unless it's really bad vibes. And it didn't seem like bad vibes there. It felt like the players were still playing for him and they still had the respect. And, it's a Raiders typical move where it feels like they fire the coach constantly. They're still paying probably 2 or 3 head coaches, so they're going to be paying another one now. And I just thought maybe give him another year, see where it goes. Because the prime example is like Dan Campbell. He went 3-13-1, and he was a bit like, people might say they didn't when it happened, but he was a bit of a joke to begin with like his press conference. Yeah. Everyone was taking the mick. Everyone didn't think he was going. He was the interim at Dolphins. No one thought he was going to do what he did. And it wasn't until they got Jared Goff, they started building the team, a couple of good drafts, and then suddenly, he's a great head coach. And there's so many examples of Hall of Fame head coaches who have shocking first years. So I just think, he may have not have been that kind of caliber, and there's going to be coaches who have 2 or 3 years and don't do anything. But you've got to give them a chance and see where it goes. And this Raiders team don't ever seem like they do that. They go from the one, we'll mention like the GM got fired as well. They obviously had the previous GM, the NFL draft expert. What's his name now?
Mayock. Mike Mayock.
Yeah, Mike. Yes. So he just feels like this go for like. Yeah, and I just find it just really weird and I wonder, there is like stories. Is this being mentioned that with Tom Brady now being in ownership, he pushed for this? If that would have happened, and he wants an established head coach and the Belichick rumors and all that kind of stuff. It's certainly interesting there, but again, it's the same kind of organizations who seem to fire the coaches and GMs constantly and then think, why are we not getting anywhere? Why is nothing changing? And it's, one, you need to get a good quarterback, and 2, just constant change and not building a squad because someone's going to come in and think, these players are not quite right for my system. Let's start again. And it's very rare you can make a team incredible through free agency and through that. So
it's one kind of thing where, like, I think Telesco's been pretty hard done by as well, relatively. I think Telesco had way too much rope in San Diego / LA with the Chargers. I think he got too long of a leash there. I feel a bit bad for him because I think he had a really good draft last year. Relative to, again, there was no quarterbacks available. But I think more and more teams should do the thing of like hire the GM and the head coach at the same time.
Yeah, same timeline. Yeah,
because then you are aligned. Like, your success is his success. Like, there's none of this like, I've inherited this guy. I really want to hire this guy, but I've got to wait a year. I can't just fire the new guy. I think that's the way smart organizations should run. But I just feel a bit sorry for both people involved because I think they probably didn't deserve to be fired on their body of work this last year.
Fair. I suppose not too much other news, but I mean, the Jets are interviewing everybody who's ever been involved in football. The Bears are almost there. I think the Bears are up to 15 people they've had or will get in for interviews. Matt McCarthy isn't one of them at the minute. And my favourite moment of the coaching cycle so far was Shad Khan on the conference call with the media with the GM that just somehow saved his job, telling the press in front of him that if he's a stumbling block for a new coach, we'll fire him while he's on the phone call. Truly outstanding stuff.
That is what you get for being a billionaire, isn't it? Like, that's the kind of behavior that he's just... no one has ever told me that this is unacceptable, so I'm just going to do this in public.
Yeah, incredible stuff. And we wonder why the Jaguars don't have much success. Let's get into then Super Wildcard. I just said it then. No, let's get into Wildcard Weekend. I did prefer it when it was Super Wildcard Weekend. I don't know why I just gave it that little extra bit. Saturday should we just call this the Houston Texans slot? I can't remember the last time they didn't play a wildcard game at this Saturday afternoon game. They're forever in this game, this slot in the playoffs. It's the Texans hosting the Chargers. Texans, champions of the AFC South, the 4th seed, hosting the 5th seed, LA Chargers. Chargers are 3-point favorites on the road in Houston. Over-under in this one is 42.5. What do we make of this one? Again, my bet's on there. Byron Hill says, I'm just going, I think the Chargers are going to crush them here, but how are we seeing it go?
Quartine. This is the one dud team I was talking about, the Texans. And again, considering where we collectively, but I'll speak for myself mainly, thought the Texans were going to be starting the season in our way too early. So like last March, probably now, maybe April. I think I picked the Texans-Eagles as my playoff game, Super Bowl fixture. Not doing that now. Texans have stumbled over the line they're in such a terrible division, but I don't see them keeping up with the Chargers here. I think the Chargers are largely better in coaching, on offense, defense. Maybe a little tip to the Texans there, but the disparity between the Chargers offense and the Texans defense is a lot closer than the Houston absolutely putrid offense and the Chargers good defense. So I just don't see where the Chargers keep up, even since Nico Collins came back. I did have the numbers here. Since Nico Collins turned in week 11, the Texans have ranked 28th in adjusted net yards per attempt, 24th in EPA per play, 28th in passing yards per game. The New England Patriots beat them in every one of those categories. This is not an offense that's functional in the playoffs. I think Jim Harbaugh takes care of business incredibly easily here.
Yeah, I agree. Just offensively, the Texans have just completely gone backwards. Injuries has a lot to do with that. Offensive line that's just dropped off massively. CJ Stroud is either under pressure or just holds onto the ball for way too long. But it's hard, you're missing 2 of the 3 we talked all preseason about, or the 3 weapons, 3 wide receivers in Diggs, Collins and Dell, and 2 of those 3 down, are injured. I just think if the Texans have a chance in this one, the Texans are going to have to play so well defensively. They're going to have to keep it such a low scoring game to have a chance, I think. In this one, I've gone the under in this one, so I've gone the Chargers -3. I'm also on the under. Chargers on the road, bit of an unders team, 6-3 in their 9 road games. Texans unders at home, 6-1-1. The under for Texans home games. So I'm just struggling to see a lot of points here. I think Chargers might revert back to a bit more of that leaning on the run game more that they had earlier in the season in this one. One of the Texans' strengths on defense, of course, is getting after the quarterback. They are pretty good. Pretty good pass rush team. So I think you slow that down with a strong running game. So I'm expecting to see, I know they've had obviously injuries, the Chargers, running backs, but I'm expecting a big lean on J.K. Dobbins and stuff like that. I'm not expecting, 40 Herbert pass attempts here in this one. So that's why I've gone for the under, because the Texans are struggling scoring at all. And I think the Chargers might just lean on the run on this one and just try and just beat up the Texans that way. Joe, how are you seeing things?
Yeah, I think similar. I see the Chargers winning this game. I just think they're the strongest of the 2. The number 1 scoring defense against struggling offense. It's just been really disappointing from them. It's and they've just not been able to get it going. Like you said, even with Nico Collins, it just feels like a struggle, and it feels like CJ Stroud has taken a step back, and everything seems hard. It's compared to last year where things felt easy for him and the offense, where they were just going down the field with ease. It's just like even getting a first down just feels so difficult. Where it's just like, oh, they've got a first down. Okay, they've got to get some momentum. It feels like they never get that momentum. So I see, a similar low scoring game. It helps that the Chargers have got 2 good offensive tackles to try and counteract the Texans' pass rush. So that'll be a key battle in slowing them down, because I think the Texans defense have to do something special, maybe get a takeaway to get a score for them to win. I don't see the Texans offense outgunning this Chargers offense, which also can be up and down. It's not like it's a scary offense, but I feel like Herbert's been playing better and better throughout the year, and some players stepping up like Quinton Johnson, and having Dobbins back. I'll just shout my bet out now while I'm chatting away. So these 2 teams feel like they rely heavily on one wide receiver, and it feels like they go to them quite a lot. So I've got Lad McConkey and Nico Collins to get 70+ receiving yards, because both teams feels like they've only got one superstar on the outside who seems to get a lot of throwing attempts towards them. So I think both of them are going to have a big game, and that's a +140. And my other bet is that both teams score a rushing touchdown, a +125, because I think it could also turn into a ground game. If it's a low scoring game, they might try and put it on the ground, and with Joe Mixon and Dobbins coming back, I think that's a decent outcome.
Yeah, I think kind of your point on the chat, the Texans just needing something, a turnover or a defense or special teams touchdown. Chargers don't beat themselves. They only give away the ball 9 times, 3 interceptions, 6 fumbles across 17 games of the regular season. So they just don't really give you a sniff. Have you forgot that Quinton Johnson plays for the Chargers, Joe? I see his mammoth game last week.
186 yards, was
it? Against the Raiders team, we weren't too bothered. Like, you could do it in week 18, that's fine. But, do it in the season, I think that's what counts the most.
All right. Baron, you also had the Lad McConkey bet as well. Sorry, I don't think we talked about that.
No, I just went Lad McConkey, 80+ receiving yards, +120. A very similar theory to Joe. Josh Palmer ruled out as well, just another mouth taken away. Obviously, that Chargers dominant wide receiver 1-2 combo with Quinton Johnson. Just a case of can McConkey get to 80 and contain Quinton's 180 average of the last 1 week. We'll see. But yeah, I've gone that. I've also gone Chargers -3. As I say, I just don't think it's much of a. I hope I'm wrong, because we want exciting games, but I think this is going to be a bit of a slower start in terms of excitement to Super Wildcard Weekend. I did just want to shout out this incredible quote from Justin Herbert press conference. I don't know if you've seen it or not. You're laughing, so I'm guessing you did, Joe. Justin Herbert said the first time he realized Jim Harbaugh was different was when Jim Harbaugh told the team that he remembered the day he was born. Jim Harbaugh is one interesting fucking fella. I would love to hang around with him. Scott Barrett of Fantasy Points, an incredibly great site, and Scott Barrett's a really good follow on Twitter if you don't already. Just has some incredible Jim Harbaugh isms, if I may just quickly vent through them. He wears the same outfit every day because that's one fewer non-football decisions we made. He works out in khakis, benching 225 pounds at the age of 60+. He takes cold plunges while still wearing his khakis. He admires SpongeBob, who attacks each day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind, and regards Darth Vader as, that's my guy, that's my boy, he's relentless, he's a jackhammer. And he refused to eat chicken because of a nervous bird.
Yeah.
There is more, but I will just leave it with those 3 of my favourites.
Yeah, I remember the chicken is a nervous bird stuff. He walked that back in the end, thankfully.
And he has chickens for their high-end productivity.
Yeah.
Genuinely. That is a quote. What a guy.
We need to have a Jim Harbaugh quote of the week from his press conference that we present on every show of the regular season next week.
100%.
Well, if they win the playoffs, if they win on Saturdays, we're expecting, then we'll do it for the divisional round and kickstart it from there. Yes, that's Chargers, Texans in the traditional Texans Saturday afternoon slot for the playoffs. We go to Saturday night. And for some reason, I almost burst into Robson and Jerome Saturday night at the movies. But it is the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Baltimore Ravens. Meeting for the third time, of course, this AFC North clash. The Pittsburgh Steelers, huge underdogs in this one, 9.5-point underdogs. Over-under is 43.5. We saw these two play most recently in Week 16. The Ravens, they won by 17, made it look a little bit wider than the game maybe was. It was close running into the fourth quarter. Did you know that 22 of the last 30 meetings between these two have been decided by one score or less, 8 points or less? 22 out of the last 30 meetings. I wanted to take the Steelers plus the 9.5. It's floating between plus 9.5 and plus 10. I wanted to. I've taken on ATS. I just couldn't bet it. They've let me down recently in the last month, the Steelers. But I'm going to take a bit of an opposite for the way these AFC North clashes have been running recently. They've been running hot as overs recently. I'm going to flip it and take the under in this one. I think we get more of a game that was similar to the first Steelers-Ravens meeting of the season, where it was 18-16. Than the more recent high-scoring one. But, gents, how are you two seeing Steelers-Ravens?
Yeah, I did struggle with this line as well. I've took the Ravens ATS, but I really wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers keep it close enough. I think, we talked about it a lot. Early in the season, there was a lot of issues with the Ravens' pass defense. Those have been largely eradicated, I feel, since Kyle Hamilton moved back to safety. They've probably been one of the better overall defenses in the league, actually. If Russ can't cook and George Pickens continues as he is, I think this could be a long day for Pittsburgh. And I think Baltimore need to do what we say every year in these big, big games. Just we don't always say it on Derrick Henry, but getting Derrick Henry's back and just let him ride the game out. Especially now Zay Flowers has been ruled out. I think you're going to see increased workload. Obviously, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, probably Rashad Bateman as well. But Pittsburgh need to be able to keep up. I've got Calvin Austin in time touchdown plus 450. I think he's a really dangerous player. Again, he's never going to be one of your high-end outputs, but he gets deep, he gets open. You can use him in the screen game, out of the backfield pretty well. I think that might be something Baltimore struggle with, especially if Pickens is having a big game. It's kind of accounting for two deeper players because Mike Williams hasn't got going as a Steeler, despite scoring on his debut. So I think this game really, I think Baltimore, I'd be stunned if Baltimore don't win the game. But I think the spread is basically can Russ cook and can Russ keep up with Baltimore into the second half at least. Is how I see it. I think he's going to struggle, so I've gone with Baltimore, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Joe, I'm guessing you're thinking kind of a bit of a low-scoring game as well with your first bet.
Do you know what? I'm not quite. I just think that it's more the Steelers. I was tempted to go. I think Steelers that bet is over 3.5 field goals. It's more the Steelers, to be honest. They just can't finish drives. And I think at the beginning of the game, Boswell had the most points this season, and I think they're going to kick quite a few field goals. And if you get the Ravens to kick one, because my bet was going to be Steelers over 2.5 field goals, but I just added an extra one for the team. So I think it could be tight at the beginning. I think both these teams can hit big players. I think that's where, it's a tricky game. I think this is one where it could go either direction. Where, I could see it being like both teams in the teens and be a struggle, big defensive game, or it could be a high flying points everywhere because both these teams have given up huge plays. Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson, so he can do what he wants sometimes, and he can hit them big plays. While even though Russ has not played well, he can hit them big, nice moon balls, so he can get his team down the field. So I've still like the Ravens, similar to you guys on the ATS. I think this is like one of the biggest spreads between the Steelers and Ravens, so that's what made it a lot more tricky. Because it feels way too far, but Ravens have just looked completely, on a different level to the Steelers the last 3 weeks. So unless the Steelers just turn it around and do what Tomlin does, and ruin another Lamar Jackson playoff campaign, then yeah, I only see a Ravens win. And my other bet is Isaiah Likely anytime touchdown scorer at plus 220. Obviously, with the news Zay Flowers being out, I think they're going to spread it around. It was in between Bateman and Andrews, but they had lesser odds. So I went Isaiah Likely instead because I think he could have a big game against this Steelers team.
Yeah, I've gone for a bit of a Baltimore rushing props. I've done something similar with the Eagles as well, but I've taken a Ravens rushing parlay. So it's a few of these bets on the Eagles earlier in the season, and I've just kind of added to it a little bit. So Baltimore over for rush attempts, over for rush touchdowns. So over 33.5 rush attempts, over 1.5 rushing touchdowns, and then tagged Derrick Henry over 98.5 rush yards as well. So that takes that to plus 320. I just think you've just got to, this is why you have Derrick Henry. This is why you brought him in these games to run it, as you mentioned, Byron, to run it out in the fourth quarter, to impose your will on teams, and do it. And you've got him to help Lamar out. Lamar has. It was interesting what he said this week, Lamar, about kind of almost anxiety. I don't know if that's right, or fears that it has in the playoffs. And if you're Mike Tomlin hearing that, and you are playing that back to TJ Watt and Highsmith and co all week, getting them going, look, we're in his head, we've got him here. I'm not sure that's actually the case, but I think you just lean on Derrick Henry. And I think this might be a throwback to maybe a Titans game that you'd see a little bit in terms of maybe not much joy from Derrick Henry, but once you get him to getting close to that 20 carry mark in the second half, you start then seeing the success as the Steelers' defensive front becomes tired, and they're feeling the effects of having to tackle Derrick Henry 20 times. And I think that might be the way this goes. But this is why you've got him. You've 4 games to do it to go win a championship. Ride Derrick Henry all the way. If the Ravens get there to the Super Bowl, you've got to be expecting Derrick Henry to, in these 4 games, to get somewhere the 110, 120 carries across these games, because that's what's going to carry you to a championship here if you are the Baltimore Ravens. But yeah, I just like that prop because I think this is the first time they've got him in a playoff game. That's what you need to do.
There is a worry about, if you look at the history of the stats between this rivalry and Lamar Jackson, it's crazy. So in the regular season, he's the king of night games. So he's 20-5, so 80%, which is the best win percentage of any QB, 15 starts since the merger. But in the playoffs, he's 0-2. So he doesn't like night, because I think last year they played the Texans in the afternoon, didn't they? In the divisional round.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously he doesn't do well in the night games. So obviously needs to get this monkey off his back. Everything with the playoffs. And the underdog in this rivalry is 29-11-3 against the spread. So 73% the underdog hits. So that is a slight worry. But yeah, no, Lamar needs to do it at some point. So I think this could be the year. And one crazy fact, I don't know if this is true, this is crazy. So it's from Action Network. So since 2020, the Ravens are 2-7 against the Steelers when leading at any point in a game. So when they're leading, they just can't keep hold of the lead. Which, if true, that's nuts. So if they go up, start worrying.
They need to win it on a Justin Tucker last minute field goal.
Last walk-off field goal. And I've got one. I think we've mentioned this before. I would have mentioned this last year. There's never been a Baltimore Ravens home playoff game that's hit the over. 8-0-1. There's been a push. 8-0-1. The under is in Baltimore Ravens specifically home games, because for some reason for the Ravens it then tags some of the old Browns stats on it as well. So you kind of get rid. I feel like it's right to get rid of them for that. But yeah, that is crazy. So since when did the Ravens?
2000.
2000 that they won the Super Bowl in 2000, didn't they?
Oh, maybe it was 99, but I thought it was 2000.
96 maybe they started.
Oh, I think you're right, actually, yeah.
Yeah, because 95 to 96, and then the Browns re-emerged in 99, didn't they? So, yeah.
And I did send you that that fact where every 12 years the Ravens win the Super Bowl when the quarterback's 28 and Lamar Jackson's turning 28, and it's been 12 years since Joe Flacco did it. Which, if that happens again, that's again another one of them wild stats that a 28-year-old quarterback only coming in for the Ravens every 12 years. So obviously that's why they're playing checkers. That's why they drafted Lamar Jackson for this year.
Knowing that 7 years later he would
be 28 years old. Yeah.
And they've got a chance of winning the Super Bowl. Excellent. Right. I'll save the Tomlin stats because they've not done us any good the last few weeks with the Steelers.
So we might get some next week, but maybe next year.
Maybe next year. Right. Any more on Steelers Ravens? No. This will be a fun one regardless, I think, of the games. Even if it's like a 9-6 game, it'll still be...
Even maybe especially if it is.
Yeah.
I think the only way it isn't fun is if it's like more than 10 points Baltimore in the lead.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. Okay, that's Saturday. Then we head into Sunday. We have the early game on Sunday. It's the Denver Broncos as the 7 seed, as 8.5-point underdogs, traveling to Buffalo to play the Bills. The over-under in this one is 47. The Bills, the winners of the AFC East and the number 2 seed in the AFC. How are you seeing Bo Nix and the Broncos getting on in Buffalo?
I really like the Broncos to cover here. I have a sneaky feeling the Broncos win this game, in fact.
Wow.
I just kind of worry that they're really well set up to play the Bills. And they can get ahead. I think they have the coaching advantage with Sean Payton over Sean McDermott. Since 2017, Sean Payton is 30-12 against bald head coaches. Relevant here.
What about against pro Al Qaeda coaches?
Well, it's a good thing you mentioned there. The last time the Broncos won a playoff game was against a pro Al Qaeda defensive coordinator, which was the Super Bowl. Broncos Panthers when Sean McDermott was the Panthers DC way back in 2016. So I think those two data points are hard to ignore. Obviously, I've gone with Marvin Mims anytime touchdown plus 475. Sean Payton finally seems to have realized that he can use Marvin Mims in creative ways, which is wild that it took 2 years after being his first draft pick in Denver that he's allowed to do it. Yards per route run this season, when Marvin Mims is out wide, it's 0.66. When he runs out the backfield, it's 4.36 yards per route run. When he's in the slot, it's 5.37 yards per route run, which would lead, either of those last two would lead the NFL by a significant margin of yards per route run on the season. I think they just have, between Pat Surtain shutting down whoever they decide is either the side they want to cover or the player they want to cover, that's Amari Cooper maybe. I just think this Bills defense matches up, this Broncos defense matches up really well against what the Bills do. If they win this, I think it's going to be after Josh Allen hero ball, which isn't out of the question. It certainly isn't wild. Josh Allen plays hero ball an awful lot. He's very good at it. It's why he's the MVP favorite. But I just have a really sneaky feeling. I can't really sum it up why. But I love the 8.5. Baltimore, I am not in playoff form. Denver have only lost by more than a touchdown once this season, I believe. And they've won by more than a touchdown multiple times. I can't believe I'm the one saying it because I can't stand Sean Payton. I've been very down on Denver both years coming into the season. I think they're a really well-coached team, and I hate saying it. And I think they can compete on any given Sunday with any team in the AFC. So I think give me 8.5 for the Broncos to cover, and I'll be having a sneaky bet on the Broncos to win outright as well.
And the Broncos beat Buffalo in Buffalo last season as well. We remember. I just think the Bills, but I'm slightly worried about the Bills. I hate the Bills with a big number. The Bills at home with a big number always worries me.
Yeah.
And I'm also quite concerned that they've kind of almost been shut down now for like 3 weeks. Like they won the AFC East so long ago.
Yeah.
And kind of even though they beat the Chiefs, they just were never really there to be able to actually push them for the number one seed. So that kind of died off. So even though they beat the Chiefs and beat the Lions, so they have got wins over both number one seeds. I just worry about them when they're a big favourite at home that they just tend to play real sluggish. I'm going that they're going to flip the script and allay my fears. I think this might be a bit of a pasting, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not, the Broncos have been incredible, and the Broncos do a lot of great things. Pass rushing in particular, that defensive line, although it doesn't have any kind of huge stars, it's just a great unit. I think that's a key battle. But I just think the Bills are going to have enough. They're averaging 31 points a game, I think, on offense. I think they're just going to have enough, and they're going to find ways to slow Denver down. Bo Nix first up, this is first time in the postseason. The light's going to get bright. You don't know, but I just got a feeling that the Bills hit the ground running here in the playoffs and put in a real good performance against the Bills and then against the Broncos. And then there's what's been a great season for them. But yeah, I think the Bills are going to hit the ground running. Joe?
Yeah, I've got similar. I think it's going to be I think it'll be 28 Fahrenheit. So yeah, it was confusing me. I was trying to work out Celsius. So yeah, it's going to be a cold day. There's a chance to snow. And I think that helps the Bills the most. I think they're used to that. They're used to the pound and ground kind of game. And I think that's where the Bills can do some damage to this Broncos team. I think James, again, there's been a lot of really good running backs this year, it feels like. And because how Derrick Henry and Barkley's played, it feels like a few players have been forgotten about. And I think James Cook is one of them because he is, he's been outstanding. And I think he can do some damage. Plus, we've getting Josh Allen. So that's where I've looked to my bets for this game. So I've got similar to what Paul had with his rushing power, but I go for the Bills. So I've got them over 31.5 rush attempts, over 143.5 rush yards, and over 1.5 rush TDs. And I'm banking on the over rush TDs. I've got Josh Allen having 2+ TDs at plus 450. The previous power was plus 275. So yeah, I think they're going to pound and ground this game, and I think what you don't want Josh Allen to do is to play that hero ball where he's throwing way too much. I think that's what gets him in trouble more, rather than just try and say, let's try and run this ball, and when the opportunity's there, to take it, because as Byron said, this Broncos team can take their chances. With Patrick Stan, I don't know who he's going to cover. I'm guessing that's the only weird thing about this Bills team. They haven't got like a true number one. If you had to choose anyone, it'd be Shakir, but then having Cooper there, and Coleman seems to have come on the last couple of weeks and whatnot, and we'll see how they target that. But obviously Riley Moss being back and having another week under his belt, I think they can try and slow down this passing game, and I can see a lot of pound and ground kind of game, and the Bills winning. I've lent the Bills on the ATS. I don't like it that much, but I went that way just with a gut feeling that I think Josh Allen's going to try and be like, I'm the man, I'm the MVP. Let's run tons and tons and beat this Broncos team up. So with Josh Allen as a home favorite, where he's 7.5 or more, he is 23-1 again straight up. And as you mentioned, the only team they'd lost to was the Russell Wilson Denver Broncos, which is madness that he's won that many. But against the spread, they're only 13-9-2 in his career. So
as well, they've not been great at home, have they, in the playoffs as well, the Bills. But I feel like that's been when they've come up against recently, like the top, Mahomes and Joe Burrow and the Bengals went in and beat them, didn't they? Was that 22? I feel like it was 2022 when the Chiefs beat the Bengals in the AFC Championship. So, the line, I kind of felt comfortable if they'd have just massively favorited the Bills. And if it got to 10, I'd have been like Broncos. But I think this is a tough one. I thought this is an entertaining game.
course, yeah. And rookie QBs, you mentioned that they're 5-12 in the playoffs since 2010, so less than 50%. But recently, it's 2-2 the last few years with Stroud and Purdy winning. So it's not like guaranteed that they're not going to come up. And if he does win, he'll join in an exclusive club. 11 quarterbacks have won as an underdog of 7 points or more. With the previous one last year, I believe, Jordan Love. Yep. Yeah. And some of us was Marcus Mariota as in 2018 and Tim Tebow in 2012. So he could be another Broncos legend with 7 point underdog.
Yeah.
So he could join a big club if he wins.
Excellent, good stuff. That is the early Sunday game. We'll move to our Sunday evening game. This is a rematch from This is one of two rematches from week 1 of the season. This one in week 1 was played in Sao Paulo, Brazil. This time it's going to be played in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as the Green Bay Packers travel to Philly to take on the Eagles. The Packers are 4.5 point underdogs. The over-under in this one is 45.5. Big question marks injury-wise, particularly around the two quarterbacks in this one. Jalen Hurts obviously got knocked out of the Week 17 game against the Commanders with a concussion. Looks like he's potentially he should clear concussion protocol, I would have thought, today. He practiced in a limited fashion yesterday. But not good 4 days out from a playoff game. Jordan Love, of course, came out of the Week 18 game for the Packers against the Eagles after taking an elbow knock or injury. He might have come back in the game. He was kind of warming up to come back into it. So question marks around the health and fitness of the quarterbacks. Joe, we'll start with you. How are you seeing Eagles-Packers go?
Yeah, I think that Jalen Hurts news is massive. I would have gone Green Bay if he wasn't playing, but like I said, he sounds like he is. The released put to practice because Ian Brook, I can't remember what his name is, the backup. Yeah. Buck. So the put him to the practice squad. So it was like, I've released him. I don't know how they're doing the playoffs. Because they did that, it basically means Jalen Hurts is going to play. I think it's going to be a fun game. I just worry about the Packers. They just don't feel like they come up big in massive games lately. I know they did obviously last year, but this year something seems missing again. The huge Christian Watson injury, I think that's massive because he's the one who could blow the doors off in terms of like getting big plays. The other wide receivers are so in and out. It's just so hard. Like Jaden Reed, I thought he was going to have a huge year, but he's just been so up and down where he has one game where he gets 100 plus and then another game he gets one target for like 5 yards. There's just no consistency. And against this Eagles team where they've massively improved their defensive backs, I don't know if they're going to have enough to trouble this team. So you would say, well, the Green Bay have got to do what they did against what they did against 49ers and the week after, where they just ran all over a team and played that bully ball with Josh Jacobs and that offensive line. But I don't know if they can do that against this Eagles team. I think that's the problem with Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, the linebackers. I don't think they can do that, and I think they would have to play that game in order to win this Eagles team, and I don't think they will. And I think the Eagles are going to put some points on this Packers team, especially like Jay Alexander being out now. I just don't think they'll have enough on that defense to slow this Eagles team. And this Eagles team is thrives when they've got a lead. So under Nick Sirianni, Philly are 14-0 and 12-2 against the spread as home favorites when they get a lead of 7 points or more when facing a team above 500. So if they get a big lead, they don't give it away. And I don't think they will with this defense and how the offense can be. I think the only way the Packers can win this game is if Jalen Hurts is rusty and not looking like himself, which I think he has this season. He's had a few games where he's just not put it all together. And they've struggled to get firing, and especially the passing game. But when you got Saquon Barkley, just give him the ball and see where it goes. So my bet, I've got Eagles. I've just changed the spread slightly. I've got a -6.5 to win by a touchdown at +112. And I went for AJ Brown with 2+ TDs at +1,000. obviously Saquon and Jalen Hurts are the favourites to get more, but like I said, with Jay Alexander being out, I think AJ Brown can cook, and he certainly did when they played him in Brazil, even though I know that was a dodgy turf and not the greatest for defenders.
Byron, what have you got for this one?
Yeah, truthfully, a very similar attitude to Joe here. I don't see the Packers really contending too much. Obviously, Jordan Love, I think he's going to play. He seems fine. But he just hasn't been right, I don't think, the second half of the season. The offense seems a bit stagnated and it just runs through Josh Jacobs, which I think the Eagles will be very happy with. I've gone with the DST of the Eagles to score a touchdown this game plus 475. Again, I think Jordan Love might get desperate early, and when he gets desperate, he has a lot of good qualities, Jordan Love, but I think one of the things he plays hero ball a bit too often, I feel. I think his footwork can be really sloppy. I think his, fundamentals can be really sloppy when it comes down to it, and it works a lot for him, but against a defense like this Eagles team, I think he's going to get caught out, and I think he's going to get found out a few times in this game. So I think there's a good chance that one of these, rookie cornerbacks, DBs for the Eagles, can pounce on that and return and put the game to bed pretty easily. I've also gone the under 45.5 in this one as well. I think, especially with Jalen Hurts just coming back, AJ Brown did miss today through practice. I think it was more of a rest day than an injury, but I think the Eagles will be happy to kind of just get through the game and move on to next week. I don't think they'll want a back and forth game. I think they'll be happy to just, like I said, if they can win 20-6, 21-6, something like that, I think they'd be delighted and just take a nice, quiet first round of the playoffs win and move on to next week and get everyone a little bit fitter and healthier.
Yeah, I mean, I just this is a horrible matchup for the Packers. I just think it's just a bad matchup, and I've got the Eagles to win and cover the 4.5, and I've got the Eagles rush parlay. I'm back on those for the playoffs. I've had to. Sadly, they're not as good odds as they were earlier in the season, where you could get them at 4-1. So I've chucked in Saquon to get his over prop yards as well, just to bump it up to plus 425. So that's Eagles over 32.5 rush attempts, over 156.5 rush yards, and over 1.5 rushing touchdowns, and also Saquon over 101.5 rush yards. So that comes out plus 425. Similar to, it's basically just cut and paste what I said about the Ravens earlier. You've got Saquon in the playoffs. Ride him until the wheels fall off. Because again, this is how you control the ball. This is how you control games, time of possession, get it, win games on your terms. Philly's offensive line's incredible. Let them win you the game. And I think that's what you do here. I'm especially Hurts coming off the concussion as well. Get Saquon 25 plus touches. I think you're laughing. And I'm expecting a comfortable win from Philadelphia.
I've got some facts which might perk up the Packers fans, though, which might help a little bit. So LaFleur, he excels in revenge games. So he's 25-14 when facing an opponent after losing to them in the previous matchup. But when he's listed as a road underdog in a revenge spot, he's 9-2 against the spread, covering the spread in 7 consecutive games. He's also 4-1 in the wildcard and divisional rounds, with the 3-2 straight up, with the only 2 losses coming by just 3 points each. So LaFleur is a good playoff head coach, especially against the spread. So they could keep it closer than what we're thinking. Just be with his game plan.
I just think that missing Christian Watson's massive. Just being able to stretch the field. I think that, again, that plays into Philadelphia's hands. Just creep everything up towards the line of scrimmage. And, if you are going to go heavy on Josh Jacobs, then he's going to have to take on all 11 Philadelphia Eagles defenders, I think. So, yeah, I think it's just going to be real tough. Obviously, things change if because of the with where the quarterbacks are. If Hurts or Love have to come out, I think that changes things massively. But, yeah. That is our Sunday evening game. On to Sunday night football. We've got our guest joining us to talk about the Washington Commanders Buccaneers game later. Andy Burrows, newfound Washington Commanders fan. So we won't go into this one in too much detail, but do you want to just shout out your bets, Joe, for this one?
Yeah, I'll just say it's wild if you told me at the start of the year that the Commanders would be the Sunday night football game in the wild card, which is nuts. I've got over 50, which is like, I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think both offenses are really exciting and can put points, and both defenses are so up and down where, you saw the Buccaneers game. Game run all over and passed on by the Saints. So if they can do that, then the Commanders can. And I've got Mike Evans and Terry McLaurin to get touchdowns at plus 300. Again, I think it's the playoffs. Throw it up to your main guys to win that battle, and I think both of these teams will.
Byron?
I've got Zach Ertz to score a touchdown in time, plus 255. Scored 7 on the season, 1 shot of his career best. And he scored 3 in the last 2 games. Seems to become more and more important to Jaden Daniels down the stretch. So I see no reason why he'd get away from him now.
Yeah, I couldn't find the odds for the bet I wanted. I didn't see it as a special anywhere, which was a Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore fight. So I couldn't get that. But I just hope it happens because those two just hate each other. They probably hate with a healthy dose of respect in there. But yeah, it's always a bit chippy between those two. And I'm sure it will be the same, even, now Lattimore's not on the Saints and on the Commanders. But yeah, I've gone over 50. I agree with you, Joe. I think these are 2 heavy overs teams for the season. Commanders overs 11-6 in the regular season, Buccaneers 12-5. But I was a bit worried about the Bucs last week, just not being able to kind of get over, really struggling to get over the line against the Saints. But I think we might see a bit of a better offensive performance from them this week. And I've gone for Jaden Daniels and Baker Mayfield, a bit of a combo rush parlay. So Jaden Daniels, 70-plus rush yards. Baker Mayfield, 20-plus rush yards. So put them together, and it's plus 650. The Commanders' rushing offense outside of Jaden Daniels has just gone. It's disappeared. Some more line problems, and Brian Robinson's not been particularly effective. Even the Rodriguez and McNichols, it's just not working. Outside of Jaden Daniels, they're not really getting yards on the ground. Jaden Daniels, obviously, these 2 teams played in week 1. Jaden Daniels ran for 80, I think it was more than 80 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Bucs. I think they are going to have a lot of designed runs for Jaden Daniels to try and keep the offense balanced in terms of pass rush balance. And so I think I think we'll get 10, 12 plus Jaden Daniels rushes. And that plays into, I think, with his average yards per rush, somewhere around that 70, 80 mark. So I just took the value at plus 70. And Baker's going to run over somebody. It's the playoffs. Why not? I think there was a couple he broke last week. There's going to be a 3rd down that he scrambles on. He's going to try and run over a linebacker. He's probably going to try and run over Bobby Wagner, which will be great to see. I like Baker 20-plus rush yards because it's the playoffs, and why the hell not?
As we're not deep diving on this game, do you know the last time Washington won on the road in the playoffs was at Tampa Bay?
It was their last playoff win, full stop, I believe.
I think you're right, yeah. I just looked up road ones, but I think you are right. That was January 7, 2006.
I know it, so don't ask me.
Joe, what was the UK number 1?
In what? Sorry, I missed the month then.
January 7, 2006, just after Christmas, 2005. The just after Christmas part might be a helping hand. I don't know if the year is.
It's after Christmas.
It is, to be fair, it's a great record.
Is it Leona Lewis?
Oh, no, you're a year early, I believe. Oh. You are 1 year early.
It's the right line.
Very much the right line.
Who is it then?
It is Shane Ward, and that's my goal.
Shane Ward, there you go. I couldn't remember who was beforehand, yeah. I was trying to think it's not Alexander Burks he was after, and yeah, okay. Shane Ward.
I'll give you my heart and soul. That's my goal. What a record that was.
What a sentiment.
Not far from where I'm from in Manchester, Shane Ward, which is why when I looked it up, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Anyway.
Paul trying to get ahead of the quizzes now.
Yeah, I was like, because when I'd seen that was the last Commanders playoff win, I was like, oh, yeah. And
it's tough on these playoff weeks as well. There's not many ye olde stats, especially when Oddshark is not cooperating. Like they're getting a reputation for now, so they're starting to do my head in, truthfully.
Excellent. So hear more on our for a Commanders Bucks preview at the end of the episode with Andy Burrows from the Bunker podcast. Understandably very excited about seeing his team in the playoffs. Last game is the Minnesota Vikings traveling to LA currently. Could be Arizona, given kind of what's going on in LA with the wildfires. Thought surprised to have one in LA. Stay safe. Yeah, there's so much uncertainty about this game because of kind of what's going on. The LA Lakers and LA Kings have postponed games for Thursday and Friday. There's a provision that if they can't play in LA come Monday, that this then gets moved to Arizona, which I think then would favor the Vikings a little bit, that the Rams are then going to have to travel. The Vikings are traveling anyway. Where are you two with this game? The Vikings are 1 point favorites, I think, as we stand. The over-under is 48. I imagine that will change if the game gets moved.
Yeah, I love this game. This is probably my favorite game of the week, I think. I've been, how can you not be really impressed with the Rams down the stretch? They beat the Vikings in October, I think it was. Might have been start of November. Pretty comfortably, as I remember it, 30-20, I think it was. 10-point game. They've just had a week of rest. Sam Darnold coming off certainly his worst game as a Viking, and a really humbling moment on, national TV in a winning number 1 seed scenario. I think McVay will be looking forward to go cooking up against Brian Flores. I think this is a fascinating game. I've bet Jordan Whittington anytime touchdown plus 1,300. Shot out last week, and whenever he gets opportunity, he seems to do really well. And Cooper Kupp looks like he'll have enjoyed the week off. Hopefully he can come back strong, because he's incredible when he's at his best, but he's looked really, really sluggish since he came back. I think, in fact, the Minnesota game was his comeback game on Thursday Night Football. Him and Puka, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, Kupp, I think he was pretty good in that game, but since then, he's just looked his age. So I think Whittington, who can replace that Kupp role to some degree, again, he's not the next Cooper Kupp. I was kind of stunned he was 1,300 anytime touchdown. He gets open in a matchup like this where surely the Vikings are going to have to try and shut down Puka Nacua primarily, try and slow down Kyren Williams after seeing what Jahmyr Gibbs did last week. I think Whittington's a great value to get open here. And like I say, I think this is my matchup of the week. I've gone the Rams against the spread, but I mean, really, it's a 1 point game. It is just a pick 'em, isn't it?
Yeah, great, crazy 14-win team on the road to a 10-win team is a pick 'em. The Rams needed the week off, didn't they? Desperately. Stafford looked like he needed it. Yeah. Cooper Kupp definitely did. And it's not going to help. It certainly doesn't harm everybody else for the Rams as well. I do like it. I'd have been tempted with the over, but I just think just the uncertainty around the game. Just made me stay away from it. The over's 9-1 in the last 10 meetings at the Rams between these two. So whether that's been in LA or St. Louis. And this is the third meeting between the two in the playoffs. Previously, the over is hitting both of the previous meetings. And that's where the bets and the money are. 81% of the bets and 81% of the money is on over 48 in this one. I've stayed away from a side and a total from a bet. I've lent Vikings ATS. I think I want to see the Vikings get another crack at the Lions. So that's kind of where I've kind of lent to. I want to see that game again. Basically, I think the Vikings did let themselves down a bit last week. They fell apart more in the red zone than anything. I don't think that game. Kind of mentioned it last week on the review. I don't think that game looked as one-sided or as big of a beating as it was on the scoreboard. But that's been kind of the narrative all week, that the Lions killed them and stuff like that. I didn't see it that way at all. I thought the Vikings did okay. They deservedly lost the game. But red zone performance is going to be key. They really tried to, or Darnold did, I don't know if that was the plan, force feed it to Jefferson. And that's why I've got, Jordan Addison was kind of non-existent. He had 1 reception for 0 yards in the game last week on only a couple of targets. Addison's been flying beforehand, so I expect a more balanced target distribution this week. And I like an Addison touchdown, and Puka Nacua is just a beast. So I've doubled them up, plus 350 as a as a double Puka Nacua and Jordan Addison anytime touchdowns. But I think the Vikings will bounce back this week. I think Darnold will bounce back. Kevin O'Connell, I think this is a big get the arm around the shoulder of Sam Darnold this week. I think that's kind of what he needs. And I think Kevin O'Connell is going to come up with a plan to, Rams defense has been good the second half of the year. Recently, it is going to be tough, but I think the Vikings can take advantage of it and then also pose some problems to the Rams going the other way. And I know McVay learns as well. McVay playing against people a second time is real strong. But I think the Vikings get it done this week.
Yeah, I've learned the Vikings as well. I've never not been a big fan of the Rams and anyone in the NFC West. I just think they're so up and down, and it's depending on who turns up. I feel like the Vikings have been more consistent. I think it's going to be a tight game, and what do the Vikings do in tight games? They normally win them. They're 9-1 straight up in close games this year when it's a one-score game, and they're 26-9 straight up under Kevin O'Connell, so he knows how to win close games. I think there is some pressure on him though, because we've got to remember the last time the Vikings won the playoffs is when they got knocked out by the Giants, and it was fairly an embarrassing loss. And that was Kevin O'Connell's only one, so they need a big performance here. They need to, they need to show out. I've got Puka Nacua and Justin Jefferson, 100 plus receiving yards each at plus 425. I think, like I said, the playoffs is where the big players turn up. It's where the superstars should turn out. So why not, give them the ball, let them do what they need to do. And I think both of these guys, I would say, are uncomfortable. I know that the Lions did a great job, but most of the time, no matter how you try and cover Justin Jefferson or and Puka Nacua the same, it just feels like they get open all the time. It's crazy. So I think they're both going to have huge games. But I've got both QBs throwing an interception. I just think Stafford's been up and down this year, and is always good for a good interception. And I think we'll see how Darnold bounces back after that bad performance. Will there be some nerves against this team? A couple of facts just about this game. A worrying thing for the Vikings offense. So since 2003, teams averaging 25 points per game, but coming off a 14-point game or less the week before the wildcard, 2-9 against the spread.
Wow.
And failing to cover the spread by 9.4 points per game. The last two were the Eagles and Dolphins last year, who combined to score 16 points. So usually when you have a bad last game, obviously facing the Lions is also not great the week before. It is 6-10 straight up this year, 4-12 against the spread. So not as bad as I thought it was. I thought it was worse. But obviously they've got that coming off. They're 18-31 against the spread in the last 3 years after you face the Lions. So it's not usually great. But some good odds for the Viking fans. So the Vikings, since we transitioned to a 16-game schedule in 78, only one team has won 13 plus games after entering the season with 101 odds or higher to win the Super Bowl. Do you want to have a guess who that one team is?
Only one team since 1978. It was 100 to 1.
Do you want me to give you the year?
Entering
the season.
I can say the Kurt Warner St. Louis Rams 99 just because lost a quarter.
You are correct. You are. And they won the Super Bowl, obviously. So, if the Vikings carrying the trend, then we've seen a Viking Super Bowl victory this year.
Yeah.
Interesting
you mentioned the last Vikings, obviously appearance in the playoffs. They lost to the New York Giants. It looks like Daniel Jones, who was the quarterback of the New York Giants, is going to be elevated to backup quarterback ahead of Nick Mullins. Imagine if Darnold goes down here and we get to see Daniel Jones in the playoffs after being released by the Giants.
And he gets a statue because Vikings are also craving a championship. And if Daniel Jones takes them all the way, he might get a Nick Foles kind of treatment. And Danny Dimes gets a nice statue out in Minnesota.
Incredible. And the Vikings have been in 4 Super Bowls, if I remember rightly. And they've never led for a second.
Oh.
So, yeah, even more than Philadelphia, they are craving something special.
Yeah.
They are. I had one little stat.
Go for it.
The Vikings on the road as favourites in the playoffs are 0-2 lifetime, or certainly in betting database history.
Usually, I think it's from 83, isn't it? The database starts. But yeah,
mid-80s-ish.
Yeah, certainly need to get some success going in the playoffs. It's been since Case Keenum, isn't it? So when was that? The Minneapolis Miracle.
2018?
And then they got blown out by the Eagles, didn't they, in the NFC Championship game that year? So
the underdog Eagles.
The underdog Eagles. Right, that's all 6 games touched on. Yeah, lots for us to talk about. Lots of bets. Hopefully, we have a good week. The fourfold challenge. It will not die. We're bringing it back for the playoffs. The records have been wiped. We're all 0-0, 0, zeros across the board. We're going to do it. I think we're going to be able to do the fourfold structure for the first 2 weeks, and then conference championship and Super Bowl. We have to get a little bit more creative, which I think is how we kind of did it last year. I'm first pick. So remind, if you don't know and you've never seen our fourfold challenge before, crazy if you're watching and listening and haven't, but we pick one favorite, one underdog, one over, one under from the slate. Usually, a 13 to 16 game NFL slate. But we don't have that.
Yeah, it's a lot trickier this time.
Yeah, I've not really thought about a strategy. I was sitting down doing it before. I was just like, I'm just going to wing it, I think, because I'm kind of at the end, so I've got time. But I'm just going to take what my favorite bet is of the week, I think, to kick off. So I'm just going to take the Chargers -3. I think it's the safest of the bets, but safest of the favorites from an ATS perspective. So I'm just going to take the Los Angeles Chargers -3, Joe, against the Texans. Sorry, Joe, we've talked about this game.
Well, we're going to be talking about every game.
Very good.
There you go. That's an in-joke for the good teams and great teams covers fans.
Those who aren't listening for the first time. This was my 101.
Yeah. It's the one I'm most comfortable with, basically.
Yeah.
Byron, next up.
Yeah, my 2 underdogs, you two aren't picking. Spoiler alert for the ATS, so that's going to be my 11th pick. I'm going to take my second favorite, I guess. I'm going to take the Eagles -4.5. Just got the news that Jalen Hurts practiced fully, on track to play Sunday. So, yeah, if I still get 4.5 points on that, I will gladly take it.
Yeah. I wonder if that'll change the spread. I know it's moved to 5 last time I looked, but
no need to keep checking. It's 4.5. That's a
no. Yeah, it is an hours. I just meant in general, just chatting while I'm doing the graphic, Byron.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it might move a little, but I don't think it'll be much. It might be 5.5, but
I think the general feeling has been he will play. I think he's just got worried. I think if it had gone into today, like if we got to today and he's not fully practiced, because I think he would clear tomorrow, wouldn't he? So he'd have to have done the practice and then he takes the tests again tomorrow. And then that should clear him. But yeah,
I think still have him at 4.5 as well. So that hasn't been an instant mover like you say it was expected to be.
Yeah.
Hurts in there, so I don't feel like a sneak or anything like that.
Joe, your first of your 2 picks on the.
Yeah, so I might as well wait to my favorite, but you've got the main 2, which so I'm going to go my underdog because I've only got one underdog. I don't want to be left with and that's the Commanders at the Buccaneers at +3. We didn't talk much about this game. I just fancy the Commanders to win this. I feel like there's always like a Cinderella story, and I think the Commanders are that team this year. So +3, I think they can beat this Bucs and like I said, I picked all favorites, so that's more or less. I don't know if that stumps you. Oh no, Paul, we know who you've got in your underdog.
Yeah, I mean, there's no shock who I'm going to be taking.
Over, and I'm just. I don't want to go with the same game. That's a problem now. It's. I don't want to go same game.
What for your favorite? Just make sure you get 1-on-1.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
If I'd done that this season, I'd have been better off, to be fair.
Yeah. So. Right, I'm going to go over, and I'm not going to go the same game because I've already put a bet. I'm going to go Vikings and Rams over 48. I think even if it moves to Arizona, that's a good track for an over kind of game.
It's a good track. It's a fast track. Where's
It is
it
a fast track.
Yeah,
And it's not gonna be
Spurs that I say that about it. It's a fast track.
It's not going to be like bad weather. I don't believe in Arizona. They can play indoors as well, can they? They can Arizona indoors.
It's a dome,
Feels
isn't
like
it?
a dome.
Stadium.
Is it a dome? Yeah. Well, there you go. So that helps my point more. And I think both these teams, like with their the way they can play, I'm going to go over.
And so far, he's kind of indoors. They just leave a gap at the side where lightning can get in, apparently. So,
And smoke.
Deary me. Byron.
Yeah, I'm pleased you didn't take the over. I thought you were going to take Joe. I'm going to take Commanders Bucks over 50, please.
That was mine.
Yeah, I knew it would be. I didn't really want to take the Vikings Rams. That would have been my second choice. The rest look like some pretty nice unders to me. So
yeah, I don't like any of those.
Yeah, so I'll be delighted to take Commanders Bucks over 50, please.
Yeah. That was probably like if I had to choose. I didn't want to go double game to start
I
with.
understand that, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I will crack open an under then. I will take. I don't want to double up game as well. I'm going to have to, aren't I?
No, there's 5 other games to pick from.
Yeah, no, but the way what I've already bet, and I'm probably have to double up a game because of who my underdog is. So let's get the underdog out of the way. Steelers, here we go. Pittsburgh Steelers might not be going to the Super Bowl, but they're going to a cover against the Ravens. So give me the Steelers plus the 9.5, Joe. And then
you did the underdog. Oh, sorry, I thought you said the under then.
No, underdog. Pittsburgh Steelers. Wave your terrible towel. Give me the 9.5. And then under, I'm going to have to double up a game. And it's going to be one of them two. I'll take Chargers Texans under 42.5. The Texans might stink here. They didn't score any offensive points, did they, against the Ravens on Christmas Day?
No, the only one was tackling Derrick Henry in the end zone. Yeah. Incredibly surprisingly.
Yeah. And I don't really like any over, so that'll be fun to pick.
I think I can see which one you're going to pick, but
yeah. Byron, you're on. You need an underdog and an under.
Yeah, my underdog I'll take last. So my under is Steelers Ravens 43.5. Like I say, we're due an under in AFC North fixtures, and I think this could be another one where we have to touch on the game, obviously. But Baltimore I just struggle to see it being a point explosion, truthfully. I know 43.5 doesn't mean it has to be a point explosion, but I think Baltimore can just grind and pound this one. Do you think there's any chance Justin Fields sees significant snaps in this game? I don't really. I think there's maybe like a 10% chance, but I think this last few weeks is maybe just while Joe's getting the graphic here. I'm just kind of blabbering.
Yeah.
But,
you know what? I wonder if there's been like a bit conversation like Arthur Smith just dial everything up. Like we need something. We need a spark. And if there is half a dozen plays for Justin Fields, they need something to get that offense going. And why not? And it gives another thing, if you do, it's another thing that the Ravens have to defend. It's another thing that the Ravens have to think about. So, yeah, why not? Like, what's the point in holding anything back at this point if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Absolutely. I do just think as well, like, this last month, 5 weeks of Russ, I think their off-season's maybe got a little more complicated than it was 6 weeks ago. Yeah. When Russ was obviously the answer for next season. It's real easy, even if it's a 1 year, 2 year, whatever deal. Got to be some more questions now. I imagine they probably do still go with Russ. I think they like him. But, yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting conversation moving forward.
Yeah. I think this week, a big bounce back for George Pickens this week. He was horrible last week against the Bengals.
Has to be, or there's going to be some big questions in the offseason for him.
I think it's a big bounce back game for George Pickens. A lot of George Pickens talking shit this week, I think we're gonna have on that field. Joe, you need an under and a favourite?
Yeah, I don't like any of this. It's got to the point where I'm like, oh, geez, I'm like going against what? I think this one could be an under. Just we've mentioned the weather, and I think the Broncos could do something on defense and keep it close for the beginning part. I've got Broncos Bills under 47. Yeah, that's my. It's funny that we haven't gone against each, and none of us have gone against each other yet.
Not yet.
We have to, aren't we? Though, yeah. So you need your favourite, Joe.
Yeah, I don't know which one to go. It's either the Bills or Ravens, but I don't really trust both with such a big spread. Or Vikings. I'll just go Vikings. Fuck it, I'll go Vikings at -1.
Fuck it, I'll go the Vikings.
Yeah, let's go Vikings -1. I'm gonna have to double up at some point, and that's
I just think it's tough. You know what? Next week, let's not do 4 picks.
No, I think we're gonna do it.
We're doing 6.
Yep.
Stretch it out.
Yeah, Byron, your underdog.
Yeah, I'll go Denver Broncos plus 8.5. Just have a good feeling about Denver coming into this game.
Nice, good stuff. Broncos plus the 8.5. So I need an over. I think I've just backed myself into a corner where I can only pick one now. I'm gonna have to go against you, Joe. I'm gonna have to go Broncos Bills over 47. I don't like it. I only need the Broncos to get to like 20. I think. I don't know if they can against the Bills.
I thought you may have gone the Eagles. That's the one I was thinking.
Nah, maybe I should have done in hindsight, but I've said it now. Yeah, Broncos Bills over 47 is what I'm going for. Yeah. So it's hard doing that with only 6 games. Like I think it's hard sometimes, when it's a shortened slate, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like when the weeks when we've had like Thanksgiving and stuff like that, and they're out of them potentially or whatever.
This makes this competition harder. So if you do lose this, you got to do 48 hours in the fast food.
No. So yeah, I'm on Chargers -3, Steelers plus 9.5. The under in Chargers Texans and over in Broncos Bills. So that's plus 12.62, Joe. Byron is on the Eagles as his favourite. He's on over in Sunday Night Football, Commanders Bucks. He's on under in Steelers Ravens and the Broncos plus 8.5. That's plus 12.28. And then Joe, you're on the Commanders plus 3, over on Monday Night Football, Vikings Rams, under in Broncos Bills, and the Vikings is your favourite. That is also plus 12.28. Excellent. So, yes, we'll see how we do this week and then see how we get on for next week. I think the last bit, and we've probably covered all this, but just our ATS prediction. So we'll do this for the playoffs as well. All of us are on the Chargers as 3-point favourites. Joe and Byron are on the Ravens, -9.5. I'm on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Me and Joe on the Bills, minus the 8.5. Byron on the Broncos. All on the Eagles, -4.5. Me and Joe on the Washington Commanders. And Byron's on the Bucks, and me and Joe on the Vikings, and Byron on the Rams. Byron is just kind of the odd one out on a lot of them, isn't it? Yeah, on three of the 6 games.
He's looking for a tie. He's looking for a title this year, so
he wants to win something.
Yeah.
ATS playoff picks is what Byron's gunning for. That's the real quiz.
Yeah, this is the real football starts now.
Everything else has just been a warm-up.
Yeah.
Excellent. And last segment of the show before we hand over to our guest, Fantasy Game Day continues into the playoffs. The UK's best and fastest growing NFL daily fantasy proposition and platform, Fantasy Game Day. Go download the app now. You can get it from whatever app store you use. Use our promo code COVER. You'll get a free entry after your first play. Sign up and use it. It's a freebie on us. Enter your lineup. We've got dedicated Saturday dedicated game, a Sunday dedicated game in the traditional stars format. We've got a full wildcard weekend game in the classic format, so that's no captain and an extra flex slot. And then we've got the traditional Ireland game, so it's a dedicated Sunday night football game and a dedicated Monday night football game. So yes, you've got to be 18 years or over to play, and then must be in the UK, of course. And of course, as always, doesn't just apply to Fantasy Game Day, but everything we talk about, please gamble responsibly. Very important. Gentlemen, I mean, let's reel off, Joe, your quarterback that you like for this week for Fantasy Game Day.
Yeah, I've gone Jalen Hurts. I just think he's yours QBs as well. He's got high potential to get a couple of touchdowns. If it's anywhere near the 1 yard line, he's getting a couple of touchdowns. So I think it's always worth to go from the kind of quarterbacks in the Fantasy Game Day situation.
Quick, do you think they'll risk, given the concussion, do you think they'll risk him doing that kind of thing around the goal line?
I think so. Yeah, because I think that the tush push doesn't feel like it's
not noggin first, is it?
Yeah. It's not usually like big impact. It's normally someone trying to get around the top and trying to like grab him. So,
fair. Byron?
Yeah, Jaden Daniels, 7,200. Someone forgot to update the team in the slides here. That is me. I finally done a bit of graphic for us and forgot to do my team. So close to doing it all right. Goodness me. Carolina are not in the playoffs, despite what Paul thought last year. 7,200. And again, I agree with Joe's slightly general view there. Like, Walgon big quarterback here. I don't think you're winning, penny pinching at quarterback this week. I don't think it's a viable tactic with so few games. I think you want a big point scorer. Jane Daniels on the ground. What was it you've gone, Paul? 80 plus rushing yards, I think it was. 70 or 80?
70 plus, yeah. I think he has a big game on the ground this week.
Yeah, those are such great, valuable points. And again, with that Commanders running game, you wouldn't be in anywhere surprised to see Jane Daniels get a running touchdown or two. So I think it's a good value of the top quarterbacks at 7,200 this week.
Excellent. I've got Josh Allen. Similar reasons, just same principles. I like the matchup. I think the Bills do probably win relatively comfortably. Like him for a couple of touchdowns on the ground as well. Love your 2+ touchdown bet, Joe, for Josh Allen. So like that, 7,800. I've gone Rashad Bateman, Nose Flowers for the Ravens. And Bateman's, even when Flowers has been playing, he's been pretty reliable for the Ravens and for Lamar. And touchdown wise has been fairly productive as well. So at 4,400, I think that's a really good value pick. I guess, similar vibe for a value pick, Byron, you've gone for your wide receiver?
Yeah, gone Keon Coleman at 3,200 again. Not sure who Surtain will shut down, if anybody. But I think as a second wide receiver, Coleman's a very interesting option. Got a lot of targets last week. I think they've been trying to build him up throughout the season at various points. But I think he can come good here. 3,200, I think, is a nice, cheap flex player.
Excellent. Joe, you've gone with the premium option for your wide receiver?
Yeah, I think Bateman would have been my number one choice. I do like that one. And then, so I just thought I'd go with someone big, and that was AJ Brown. Mentioned in the preview, I think he could get a couple of touchdowns with Jay Alexander out. So
excellent. And you've gone for a tight end, Joe?
Yeah, I went for Pat Frymouth. I think he's getting more and more productivity. I think Russell Wilson is going to tag. It tags him quite a lot lately, and with what's happening with Pickett, it needs someone of the middle, and I think Frymouth's his safety blanket right now, and he's fairly cheap tight end. You're not going to get that many cheap players going into the playoffs. I think he's a nice. He's going to get a lot of targets and could get you a couple of points.
Yeah, Byron, you've taken someone on the lower price tier for the tight end.
Yeah, I just think so. I've gone Isaiah Likely at 2,400, and again, this is hugely on Zay Flowers being out. I think this becomes a two tight end. It's already a very heavy two tight end attack anyway with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, but with no Zay Flowers, I think it becomes more so. Isaiah Likely's, your bargain bucket here at 2,400. I think he can come up pretty good for you.
Excellent. And then I've gone with the third heavy hitter for the Eagles. Joe, you've taken Hurts and Brown. I'm taking Saquon. It is obviously 8,200. It's a big part of your budget. But I think he's going to go off and have a huge game. So, Saquon for me. Obviously, you've got the risk of Hurts stealing his touchdowns, but I think he's still going to have enough production as it is to be a worthwhile pick there at the top tier. So, yes, go play Fantasy Game Day now. Loads of game options throughout the postseason. And get involved. If you've seen it and not thought about trying it, well, why don't you get 2 games for the price of one on us? Use that promo code COVER when you first sign up, and you'll be credited with a free play after your first entry. Gentlemen, that's our portion of the Wildcard Weekend preview done. Our picks and preview episode. I'm going to hand over to myself with Andy Burrows from the Bunker podcast, one of the UK's few, as we learned, one of two Washington Commanders UK-based podcasts. So, here's me with Andy talking about the Commanders and Buccaneers in a bit more detail. Finishing off our NFL Wildcard Weekend preview, we've got a new guest, the Good Teams Win Great Teams cover, a Washington Commanders guest for Good Teams Win Great Teams cover. We're joined by Andy Burrows from the Bunker podcast, a UK dedicated Washington Commanders podcast. Andy, the Washington Commanders have had a fantastic year. That's why we've reached out to you as they're in the postseason. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm good. I've never been so popular. It's finally good to be talking about my football team for things on the field other than off the field, whether it be owner or a name change or God knows what else. It's been a unexpectedly very good season for the Commanders. We say rebuild a lot, but yeah, I'm doing fantastic, mate. I get to watch playoff football. It's not. I often just watch other teams play in January. I now get to watch my own team play a meaningful game of football. See, I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Nice, good stuff. Yeah, I'd say what a season it's been. As I mentioned in the intro, you run the Bunker podcast, which is I think the UK's only dedicated Washington Commanders podcast. If I'm right, from
there's two of us there. My friend Scott and my co-host host a 1 Point Safety show. They talk Washington stuff. I told them they had to podcast. They were just guests on my show far too bloody much. So I said, look, just start your own show. But yeah, I do the Bunker, mate. Been doing it since 2020. Pretty much like a lot of us, we were all locked down during COVID. So they were like, hey, do you want to do a podcast over there in the UK for us? And I was like, yeah, why not? And here we are, mate.
Good stuff. I mean, where can we catch you if we're looking for the Bunker podcast? Where can we find it? Where is it out? And yeah, what kind of stuff have you got going on with it?
Yeah, so the best place to probably interact with us is on X, formerly known as Twitter. We are at Commander Bunker on there. Or just go onto YouTube, type in the Bunker podcast. Just scroll down, you'll see the Washington logo. So we've only recently just started with the YouTube because throughout COVID, we just done audio only. I mean, our audio downloads were so great. And everyone's like, oh, I'd like you to go to, it's hence why we're doing this. Everyone's like, can you put it on YouTube? And once I finally figured out how to do it, so we've recently gone over to YouTube like 4 or 5 months ago. But yeah, just type in the Bunker podcast at Commander Bunker on Twitter or X. But yeah, we just do we have great guests come on. We've been very lucky. We've had the team president. We had Terry Crews come on and join us. Obviously now hosts America's Got Talent, but everyone seems to forget was an NFL player. Played for the Washington Redskins. We've had him. We've had some really great guests. Obscure people like Anton Dubek, believe it or not, is one of the biggest NFL fans you'll ever meet. He come on our show and just talked NFL with us. So yeah, we do like weekly shows. We're a bit like yourselves. We're just fans and we just enjoy talking about football. So most Mondays our shows drop. Obviously the games are on Sunday, so our shows drop on Mondays. With various amounts of guests, but there's myself, my co-host Andy Lockhart, who's here in the UK, and then we have a guy in America called Jesse Martin, who has become one of my best friends purely through podcasting. We all met via social media, and now we all meet up once a year. We fly to DC, etc., etc. So yeah, it's great what's going on, and finally I get to talk about my team being good. So many times I've come on people's show. Oh, do you mind coming on and talking about your owner or this off-field scandal? Or you're not called the Washington Redskins anymore. So for me to come and just talk some football is great.
We'll get to how has the ride been this year then? Because I think obviously the change and kind of what's gone on the last couple of years in terms of the ownership change, new coach this year, Dan Quinn, and then the excitement, rightfully so, surrounding Jaden Daniels. How has that ride been throughout the season?
Paul, honestly, mate, it's something that we said at the start of the season, look, we're going to rebuild. We won 4 games last year. It was terrible. Ron Rivera's last season in charge. It was really bad. We had, the thing is with Washington, we have so many quarterbacks throughout the season. So most teams go, like, they change. We change during the season. We have 2 or 3 during the season. So to hit now on Jaden, it's been very unexpected. Look, we knew Jaden Daniels was good. Did we know how good he would be in the NFL? Potentially. I think this season is it's gone above and beyond what we all thought. I mean, going from winning 4 games to winning 12 games and still not winning the division in the NFC East. In 2020, we won the division with 8 games, I think. I think we won 8 games in 2020. We won the division. To win 12 and still not win it, it proves how good fair play how good Philly have been, and I take my hat off to them as much as it pains me to say it. But it's been an unexpected ride, and what I've liked about us is we've been consistent this year. Don't get me wrong, we've had some heart attack games. We've had Hail Mary wins. We've had last weekend against the Cowboys where we thought we were looking like we've stared down the barrel a lot of times this season and somehow pulled out a win. And I think that's testament to where Dan Quinn's got us in a quick time. It's added on more expectation with the fans now because you win 12 games this season. Well, next season you pretty much got to go and win a division. I mean, the bar has been set now, and it's a good bar to set. And we've got loads of cap space, which is really good. This team is only going to get better, and I generally think we've got probably one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. And I don't say that purely just because I've spoke to Cowboys fans, I've spoke to Kansas City Chiefs fans. They're like, wow, this kid is the real deal. So the sky's the limit for us. And why shouldn't it be? It's why we all watch sports, why we all love football. People are like, oh, don't get Commanders fans. Look at them getting carried away. I've had so many people tweet me going, oh, you're being a bit brash. I'm like, I've supported this team since 1997. We've never been any good. In January, I get to speak to people. Oh, look at us. We're watching playoff football or wildcard games and Super Bowls. I'm just here as a Commanders fan or then Redskins going, oh, well, we won 5 games, So, the sky's the limit, mate. It's been a great season. I've absolutely loved every minute of it.
And you mentioned there, you started following the Redskins in 1997. What got you in? I suppose what got you into the sport, and then how did you get drawn to? I suppose the Washington Redskins football team,
Commanders. Yeah, I know, mate. I've had, so I spent a lot of time in DC, back end of '97, beginning of '98. And the family that I was staying with were like, "Hey, Andy, do you want to watch a game of football with us today?" Me being me, thought Tottenham are on or Man United or something, and they were like, "No, they call it proper football over there." And I was like, sure, why? I've never really heard anything about the NFL. And they were like, well, obviously, I was in Martinsburg, West Virginia at the time. And they were like, look, the Redskins are on. And I just sat down and I watched the game and I was like, wow, absolutely fell in love with the game. And then I come back to the UK and I signed up for a flag football team just near where I lived. It was an indoor league every Friday night. I was only like 17, 18 years old. And the Fridge Perry was the coach. Part of the NFL Europe deal was that they had to go to schools, colleges, and leisure centers and be coaches. So I've turned up, and they're like, Andy, I didn't have a clue who he was. Now I do, and I'm like, wow. I look back and I think I spent 5 months with him, and he was one of the nicest guys, funniest guys I've ever met. And again, he got us involved in the games, and then I went to things like the London Monarchs, and then I got, because they played at Tottenham Stadium, and I'm a Tottenham fan. It's an excuse to go to White Hart Lane, etc., etc. And then it just grew from there, mate. And I get so much stick for it now because it's my favorite sport. I love my soccer, as my English friends kill me for saying that, but to differentiate between football and our football, we have this conversation every time I go to the States every year, and now I absolutely love it, mate. I watch all. And if there's a game on, I'll watch it. I drive my family crazy. I could be up at 1. I'll stay up and watch the late game. It might not be Washington. It could be Dallas versus Philly. It's a divisional game. I'm going to watch it. I think it's I'm so pleased for where the game is now in the UK because it got such a bad rap. So many people are like, oh, it's a 60-minute game that lasts 4 hours. What has helped is the content that we get over here now in the UK. You know what I mean? It's from where it was to what it is now, mate. It's absolutely incredible. I just love the game. I love Washington, everything about the sport. So, yeah, started in 97 and here we are in 2025. And I get to now podcast. I get to do great things like this. And what I do love, I get to interact with people like yourself. So I've met so many people through the love of football. That's what I love most about this sport. The NFL community is incredible. And, yeah, and again, my team are good now, so it helps.
That does help. That's always like you're a glutton for punishment, right? Spurs.
Mate, I've never had this. Yeah, Tottenham and Washington, and I'm a Dunstable Town fan as well. They're not very good. Thankfully, the Boston Celtics are quite decent. My NBA team.
There we go.
But yeah, I am glutton for punishment. Just through years and years, I've only ever known bad. So that's why, like I said to you earlier, when people are like, "Oh, you were Commanders fans, you're giving it," I'm like, you don't realise how bad this franchise and this organization have been, whether that's on the field, off the field, whether that's everything that's gone in between, from the name change, everything that we've gone, everything that I've ever spoke about Washington Redskins football team Commanders has been a negative. It's never been good. It's always been, oh, your owner's done this or your team's doing that. And, oh, Andy, can you come on and talk about this? Yeah, sure. What do you want me to talk about? This scandal, the cheerleader scandal, and everything that's gone on. Now I get to sit down with fans like yourself. You know, hey, let's talk about the playoffs. Let's talk about Jaden Daniels. Let's talk about Terry McLaurin. Let's talk about Dan Quinn, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So it's so good, mate. So it's a great time to be a Commanders fan.
And a great link there. You mentioned, obviously, Dan Quinn, who took over the team about 12 months ago now. I'm a Cowboys fan. He was our defensive coordinator. Did a real good job in Dallas, and then just kind of got a bit tarnished on the way out with the way the Cowboys got killed by the Packers in the playoffs last season. What's Dan Quinn brought then to the Commanders? Because it's an 8-game turnaround, which, you know, in a 17-game season to get 8 more wins than they did 12 months ago. What's Dan Quinn brought for you then that's made it such a success?
Look, I think we've recruited well, which, you know, that helps. But I think he's just brought a believability to us. He's like, look, I think he knew how good Jaden is going to be. And in any sport, you just feed off your good players. Look at Liverpool at the minute. Mo Salah, absolutely flying. You feed off him. You feed off your good players and you get good players around that. I think he's just given us the belief that, hey, look, for far too long, this franchise, this organization have been where they've been. He just wanted to wipe the slate clean. He's like, look, let's start. This is day one, page one. Let's go out and put our benchmark now on this and let him put his benchmark on. And every interview I've heard him do, he's always been about the team. He's always been about the players. He's never been, I've done this, I've done that. Yeah, we know what he's brought to the team. But what I love about Dan Quinn is he's very quick to say, look, it's on the players. They are the ones that go on the field on a Sunday and have to do it. He says, look, I've got the easy job. They've got the hard job. He's given us that belief that we can win. If I was sitting here this time last year and you said to me, Andy, you know, this time in the year's time, the Washington Commanders have got to win 12 games. I'd have been like, Paul, mate, you've had a good day out. You've been on the sauce, son. It's just like, it's one of them. He's given us so much belief. I obviously, like, you know him from his time in Dallas. And I mean, we all know what's going on at the Cowboys, and it's going to be a bit of a merry-go-round by the looks of things, what's going on there. I'm so glad him and Cliff Kingsbury, what they've done for our organization is incredible. And with being good already, people are like, oh, well, you're going to keep Cliff Kingsbury, you're going to keep Dan Quinn. I'm like, hang on a minute. Why would you want to leave Washington now? Yeah. For once, I'm not the one going, oh, you know, we might lose so-and-so. You know, he's brought in that belief, mate, into this organization. And it's fed through the entire organization to the fan base.
Yeah. I think, again, for seeing what Dan Quinn did, I think, and it's not just Dan Quinn, the Commanders did in free agency, kind of made me think they'll be okay here.
Yeah.
Last year, there was a bit, and my co-host Byron, whenever we talk about the Commanders, sort of always reminds us of the fact that I think Dan Quinn just lifted the floor of what of the roster. So might not necessarily been sexy signings in free agency, but the center from Dallas, you know, Tyler Badash, he plays like Dante Fowler, who's had an incredible season. You know, just players like that, they've just lifted the floor up. So they're not necessarily world beaters, but the general consistency and level of the whole roster as a result has risen. Is there anybody, you know, we'll talk about, obviously, Jaden Daniels, I was advocating for the Bears to take him at 1. I thought he should have gone ahead of Caleb. And it's easy to say that now, but the tape will show that was a belief held all the way through. And Terry McLaurin's had an unreal season. Who's kind of gone under the radar, maybe, that we don't shout about as much?
I mean, you look at someone like Luvu, he's gone completely under the radar. I mean, I absolutely wax lyrical about that guy on a weekly basis. I mean, yeah, everyone says about Jaden, and fair play should, and so they should. Sam Cosmi goes under the radar. I think he's given up 1 sack the whole season. Someone like him is Austin Eckler. You know what I mean? We brought him in for a reason and he's delivered. Everyone's like, you're taking a risk taking him. Everyone's like, he's a has-been. No, we brought him in for situations like this. He's been there. He's done it. He knows what to do. He'll only elevate players around him, kind of thing. And then you've got people like Brian Robertson, who got such a bad rap last season. Everyone's like, cut him, get rid of him. And even now, there's been a few fans at the back. We've tailed off a little bit near the end of the season. Obviously, we might get into our run game, etc., in a minute. But there's been so many pieces that have had to fall into place. Yes, we've got an elite quarterback, in my opinion, but he, as good as he is, and it says what he is. He's our leading rusher. You know what I mean? That's how good he is. We're still a work in progress, albeit winning 12 games. As Commanders fans, when you mention the players that we've just mentioned, there's still games that we've left on the field. There's still 2 games that I can think of that we probably should have won. So that's us winning 14 games this season, potentially, as a Washington Commanders team. That's where we are now. And that's, like I just said earlier, we've got a bucket load of cash going into free agency. People are going to want to come and play for us. It's such a good time to be a Commanders, anything involved with the Commanders.
And they've got the opportunity this week to win a playoff game.
Oh,
the Commanders play the Buccaneers in Tampa. It's a rematch of week 1. So week 1 was Commanders Bucs in Tampa. The Bucs won, I think it was 37-20. So this game's completely different now, though.
Yeah.
And the kind of Commanders team was week 1 versus where that Commanders team now is a completely different place. And Tampa Bay are no mugs, of course. They're 3-point favorites in this one. I suppose you've kind of alluded to it, so let's start there. Tampa Bay is such a good rush defense, and the Commanders' rush offense has kind of struggled the last 5-6 weeks. Where are the keys to the game? How do the Commanders win this game?
Stop Mike Evans playing. 100%. Yeah, we've got the perfect person to do that if he's healthy. Stop Mike Evans playing. Look, everything's got to come together for us this weekend. We know it. I mean, look, it's one of them. It's heart versus head. And if you sit down and you analyze every position, probably we shouldn't win. The way we've been running the ball, like you just alluded to, Paul, we haven't been running it great the last 5 or 6 weeks. A lot's got to click for us. If we get back to the Commanders start the season, mid-season, then we've got a great chance. But with Jaden everyone's been saying it. Everyone you speak to, every show I watch, podcast, radio, if Jaden is firing on all cylinders, no matter what the game situation, we've got a chance. How many games? You're a Cowboys fan. Look at Sunday. For 90% of that game, I'm like, oh my God, we're going to be the 7th seed. We're going to Philly. We've messed this up. All of us in our group chat were like, we've got number 5 there. He'll something will happen. And lo and behold, we run a great play to Terry, who had been pretty much non-existent the whole game. Didn't see him the whole game, and then bam, we win. So with JD under there, mate, we've got a chance. We need to figure out A, how to stop the run, and B, how we actually run the ball this Sunday. If we can get our run game going and not rely so much on Jaden, because he is our leading rusher, and you can't. And against this, against the Bucs defense, I don't think he'll be. Once he gets out the pocket, he's nowhere near having as much time as he did. I thought the Cowboys. If you look at the Cowboys game, I think they nullified the run the first 3 quarters pretty much. Jaden didn't really get out of the pocket. The O-line was pretty bad from the Commanders, but full credit to the Cowboys. They figured out how to stop him. Now you go flip that to the Bucs. They're, no disrespect, they're elite. They are a good. Their run defense is incredible. So we're going to have to be firing on absolutely everything this weekend. But about all the games we could have had, we were on our way to LA. We were on our way to Philly at one point. This is the one game I genuinely think we got a chance of winning.
Yeah, I think it's the way it fell with kind of, so the Packers lost anyway in the end, didn't they, last week?
Yeah.
But the way it fell with the Rams, they sat everyone last week, didn't they, against the Seahawks? Yeah. So it flipped with Tampa. I think it's probably the best matchup, or the most desirable matchup of the 3 that could have been. And yeah, I think the keys in that run game. I think you've just got to take a bit off Jaden. I think you've got to just help him out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's just so hard against Tampa. Big Vita Vea in the middle. They're just such good. I think the 4th best run defense in terms of yards a game. They give up 98 yards a game, which is is not a lot, not a lot in the NFL. So yeah, it is going to be a tough game. It's a good game. It's Sunday night football as well. So and I think
1 a.m.
Yeah, it's a late one for you guys, but it could be fireworks. Baker's been playing unbelievably well for Tampa. Jaden's been unreal. Jaden Daniels has been unreal for the Commanders. So it's I think it might be the game I'm looking forward to the most. I think it's going to be the funnest game of the week. You might not feel that because of the stress and the nerves.
No. As long as we hang it, the thing is, like I said to you earlier, as long as we're in the game come the 4th quarter, we've got a chance. No matter what the score. If we're down 2 touchdowns come the start of the 4th quarter, we've still got a chance. It's just whether if the Bucks really turn it on and we're blown away by the third quarter, and you're thinking, damn, all this to get to the playoffs and not perform. We played the Bucks in 2020 at then FedEx Field with the Taylor Heineke diving for the pylon, and we nearly beat them then and they had Tom Brady then, but they've come on leaps and bounds since then. If they get through us, they potentially could go all the way, really. I mean, you can't really look above Kansas. I personally, if it ain't us, I hope Detroit win it. But we're gonna have to bring everything. Sunday's got to fall perfect for us.
And look, that could happen. Give us a score prediction then. How do you think it's going to go Sunday? Give us a score prediction for the game.
30, 31. I think we win with a field goal in overtime.
Overtime, yeah, you mentioned that. You messaged
That's
me
I know you guys are a betting show. If that was my bet, mate, I know you guys like your bets on this show. If that was my bet, it would be the Commanders to win it in overtime.
Overtime, I like that. I do think it'll be tight.
What do you think the score will
be? I think close. I think the Commanders can win it. Commanders have been real good on the road as well. I think they've won 5 of 8 road games. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think the Commanders can pinch this. 27-24, maybe something like that. I think the Commanders can win a relatively high scoring game. I like them to take them. I think I'll be taking the Commanders +3. They're 3-point underdogs, so I think I'll be taking them because I just think it'll be close. So I'll take the field goal. But yeah, I like the Commanders. But I'm a big fan of the Bucs as well. I love Baker, love Mike Evans. Very much looking forward to see Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore tie it up again. There'll inevitably be a fight because there always is.
100%. Yeah, it's going to be. That will happen within the first few plays of the game.
Yeah, and he is Lattimore is a Mike Evans killer. He does restrict him a lot. So yeah, I think it's a good matchup. Andy, obviously you're a busy man. You're a man in demand, so we'll let you go. But just give us a reminder of where we can catch the Bunker Podcast.
Yeah, so if you go onto X, formerly known as Twitter, @commanderbunker, just go onto YouTube, type in the Bunker Podcast, scroll down, you'll see the Washington logo. Just subscribe, or you can just go onto Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get the audio fix. Just type in the Bunker Podcast, and you'll find our dulcet tones every most Mondays we drop our shows, mate. But I really do appreciate you having me on, mate. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks for coming on. Best of luck on Sunday. And hopefully, like I say, if the Commanders progress, we'll have you on in a conference championship preview.
If we win, you're going to be the lucky omen, you lot. If we win, mate, you're going to take us to the Super Bowl.
Hey, it'll be a great story. And look, everyone would love an outsider to win it, right? Of course they do. We're kind of all sick of seeing the Chiefs win it and stuff like that. So yeah, it'd be great to see an outsider win it. Best of luck, and fingers crossed they get the result that you're hoping for on Sunday. And that brings us to the end of our NFL Wildcard Weekend preview. So best of luck, everyone. If your teams are playing this weekend, best of luck. Best of luck with your bets. Hopefully they all cash. And we'll be back on Monday with our on Tuesday, I should say, with our Wildcard Weekend review.